Saturday at the 2016 CFL Combine presented by Adidas. We are on the U of T campus here at the Gold Ring Center. Saturday morning, Justin, traditionally means time to show off your brute strength and all your power.
Yes, sir. It's a bench press. 225 pounds on the bar. Looks like we have some fresh plates for the players now. The record is 47, set by Laurier offensive lineman Michael Nill. Last year, Byron Archambault, the linebacker from Montreal, got pretty close with 42. Might be a couple guys getting the 40s this year, Don.
Let's find out. Let's get to lifting. Maiko Zepeda of the University of Montreal, the first to lift this morning. CIS first team All-Canadian last year. 34.5 tackles, first on the team. Trying to power through. 17 is Zepeda's count. 17, he did 15 at the regional. Miles Gorell, by the way, calling out those totals. He's been overseeing the bench press for many, many years, a scout with the Ottawa Red Blacks. Mikael Charland, the defensive back now with Concordia University next to get under the bar. His hometown, Gatineau, Quebec. Justin, when we're talking about the defensive backs, how many reps are we looking at to be impressive to the scouts?
Well, anything over 10, I would say. You get into those double digits, that shows you're pretty strong, because obviously for a defensive back, you need to be strong and fast to be able to cover.
.46.5 tackles for Charland last season. A CIS second team All-Canadian in 2015. 13, his number, 13 reps for Mikael Charland.
Bit of an improvement there from his 2015 CIS East-West Bowl number. He did 10 at that event, so goes up 3 here.
Just getting some announcements from Miles now. Taylor Loeffler is not doing it. Dominic Termanson sometimes goes as Nicholas as well. We don't see him out there. Anthony Thompson, not yet. We do see Josh Woodman, defensive back from Western University, under the bar now. 9 interceptions for Woodman in his final 16 games of his university career. A ball hawk. And that looks like to be it for him. 10 is the number for Josh Woodman. 10.
Solid number for the Mustang there, Don. Just got into those double digits.
Just walking into the gym here at the Gold Ring Center is number 26. You see him just settling in. Brennan Van Nistelrooy came out of the Edmonton Regional to get the invitation to the National Combine. Defensive back, also a punter, by the way, folks. 47 punts last season, 38.5-yard average.
Versatility, Don. They like that.
More importantly, 6 interceptions. His hometown is Lethbridge, Alberta. Played with the Okanagan Sun of the Canadian Junior Football League. And you don't want to underestimate players who come out of the CJFL, do you?
Certainly not. We've seen over the years players come from that league and develop into stars in the CFL. Jermaine Gabriel, a perfect example of that.
14 reps for Brennan Van Nistelrooy. 14 for the man from the Okanagan Sun. Number 27, Malcolm Brown, through the Toronto Regional Combine to get an invitation here today. His hometown is London, stayed at home to play his university ball at Western. 23.5 tackles in 2015. 4 interceptions, 1 brought back all the way for a touchdown.
Physical DB always seem to be around the football, come up and hit you, and he can cover too.
Brown says that Ticat safety Craig Butler, one of the players that's inspired him to become a pro.
Former Mustang, Don.
Into double digits now. It's emerging on that last one and gets it. 13. Malcolm Brown comes through with 13 here for the bench press. As we go
Powering
along
through there
position
at the
by
end,
position, and we'll get to the bigger men towards the end of this session when we'll see the defensive linemen and the offensive linemen. But first, it's defensive backs followed by receivers.
We see all the DBs there, Don, that did the bench, got into the double digits. It's a pretty solid, strong group there.
So that's a good start, and the bar is set by the defensive backs. Now we're into the wide receivers. And Brett Blasco, hometown of Burlington, Ontario, University of Calgary, wide receiver, and one of Justin Dunk's under-the-radar prospects here this weekend.
Yes, indeed. He's been working hard training out at SST in Burlington to get ready for this event right here.
21 receptions for 336 yards, a couple of touchdowns in 2015. Eight is the total.
Team, what you need to look at, too, here, Don, is the bigger guys with the long arms. The bar has farther to go, makes the reps tougher. So 8 is pretty respectable there for Brett because he's got long arms.
Something you might not think of. Yeah, there's just a little extra distance, and it adds up, doesn't it? That's 225 pounds, folks. Jamal Kett, out of the Toronto Regional. His hometown is Orangeville, Ontario, and Western University, his school.
And, you know,
also Simon Fraser just before that, actually, before transferring.
Exactly. That's where he started at Simon Fraser. Kind of an interesting story. He originally thought that he didn't make it through the Toronto Regional, but didn't hear his name called and finds out on his birthday, no doubt, that he is indeed going to the National Combine.
Nice birthday present, a chance to impress all of the scouts who have gathered here in Toronto this weekend. I'm hearing 8 is the total, and then a -1 on top of that. Justin, is that what you got? Is he coming in with a 7? Do they credit him with 7?
Officially.
Listed it as 8 on the board. We'll see if that changes. Wide receiver Doug Corby now, 19th on the CFL Scouting Bureau December rankings, 16th in the fall, drops to 19. From Queen's University in his hometown of Burlington, Ontario. 30 catches for 592 yards last year. That was 5th in the OUA. It's just in 5 regular season games. Played in only 5 due to some injuries last season.
Corby and Blasco, the receiver who just benched, went against each other, rival high schools in Burlington.
Says Andy Fantuz is the kind of player he wants to become. Corby struggling now, and they gave him all the time they could. And then, of course, obviously, for safety's sake, you've got to get that bar off him. And he comes through with 11 reps. 11 reps for Doug Corby.
There we go, our first receiver into double digits on the day.
Félix Faubert-Lucier, another under-the-radar prospect of yours, Justin.
Yeah, favorite of mine here. He's a guy that has played primarily receiver at Laval, but CFL teams look at him as being able to do that, play slot back, but maybe also be an H-back, sort of a fullback type. A lot of versatility there, possible things you could do with him on offense.
Led the Rouge et Or last year with 42 receptions, 3 touchdowns, and an RSEQ All-Star. Hometown, Montreal, Quebec. And he's off to a jackrabbit start here, Justin.
Making that look like lightweight, Don.
Faubert-Lussier is setting the pace here. How far can this receiver go? He wants 25, and he gets the quarter. This is impressive. 26 reps.
How about the effort there at the end, Don? I thought he was going to fail a couple reps ago. He gets to 26, had 23 at the 2015 East-West Bowl, so improves by 3. Big, strong guy, obviously.
And some guys like to come out and just kind of go very slowly and conserve. Others like the jackrabbit kind of style that he just displayed now. Just let's get as many out as I can possibly get right away.
Pumped it out. Used the chalk there. We got a bit of a chalk spill on the mat.
Felix Faubert-Lussier. What a performance. 26 reps. George Johnson out of Western University in a hometown of London, Ontario, now under the bar. 32 receptions last season for 540 yards into the end zone once, and an OUA second-team All-Star with Western.
Georgia, talented basketball player at the University of Western Ontario as well. Dual sport athlete, but after a couple years of basketball, decided to focus on football. Now, obviously, finds himself here at the CFL Combine.
The rep numbers there, I think I heard 10. Is that what we got, Justin? Wait for it to get up on the big board. And, yeah, that's what he gets. George Johnson with 10. He had a big season in 2013. He had 60 catches for 982 yards, 5 touchdowns.
He did 5 reps on the bench back at the East-West Bowl in 2015, so doubles it there, Don. The scouts will like to see that. It means he's been in the gym working and preparing for this event.
Now the young man who stands 18th on the CFL Scouting Bureau December rankings. He was not ranked in the fall, so he hops on due to a good season. Brian Jones, the wide receiver out of Enfield, Nova Scotia, and an Acadia Axeman.
Expect a big number here, Don. He did 19 at the East-West Bowl in 2015, making it look like warm-up weight here early on.
This is another impressive performance by a receiver here at the Combine. 24 doesn't get to Faubert-Lussier levels, not quite, but 24 reps again, very impressive for Brian Jones out of Acadia.
2 receivers in the mid-20s here, Don. Some strong fellas here showing out in the receiver group.
45 catches for him last year, and in 2014 he was named the AUS Most Outstanding Player. That year he had 57 catches for 639 yards and 3 touchdowns. And now here's Mike Jones.
Who?
Mike Jones is his name. Are you familiar with this young man? You have something to say about Mike Jones, do you, Justin?
Mike Jones, one scout told me, is going to come in and be the talk of the Combine. Scouts say he's one of the fastest Canadians they've ever seen. Be curious to see how strong he is here, though.
Out of Southern University in his hometown of Bryan, Texas. "19 catches for 272 yards last season. Well, Justin, his hometown of Bryan, Texas, could you tell us how he is considered a Canadian for the purposes of the draft in the Combine?
Yeah, he was actually born in Toronto before going back to the States. His mother, Jennifer Jones, is from Toronto. Her whole family is here, so she had him, went back to Michigan State, finished off her career, and then started a strength and conditioning career that took her all the way down to Texas.
Mike Jones with 6 reps, by the way, and now 17th on the CFL Scouting Bureau December rankings, down from 12 in the fall. Here's Levi Noel. Played with the Windsor AKO Fratmen, the Ontario Football Conference of the CJFL. His hometown is Toronto.
Originally started out at the University of Toronto, Don. Had a big year in 2014. Unfortunately, though, became ineligible. That's why he went to the CJFL.
And in 2015, he had a punt return TD, a kick return TD, and a missed field goal return for a TD.
Pretty impressive stuff there, Don. He's a good all-around game breaker with the ball in his hands.
Just waiting for his numbers now. 12 for Levi Noel. 12 is his count in this morning's bench press.
A bit of an interesting number there. He did 14 at the East-West Bowl in 2015. I would have thought he might have got up higher in the teens there, Don.
Another invitee from the Toronto Regional, Brampton's Shaquille Johnson, another CJFL player, played with the London Beefeaters last season. He lists G. Simon as an inspiration, and why wouldn't the all-time receiving leader in the CFL be your inspiration? By the way, G. Simon, who's now director of CIS Scouting for the BC Lions, will be joining us in a few moments to talk over weightlifting and the Lions offseason and heading into 2016 as well. But we're watching Shaquille Johnson lift right now.
Shaquille Johnson actually started at the University of McGill back a few years ago, was a CIS Rookie of the Year there, Don, transferred to Western, and that's how he ended up playing for the London Beefeaters.
7 reps for Shaquille Johnson. Again, 34 catches for him last year, 637 yards and 8 touchdowns. A kick return specialist as well, though. 8 kickoffs returned for 222 yards and a touchdown, 7 punts returned for 77 yards. So he can make the catches on offense. He can also lug it back for you on special teams.
Johnson's forte is speed, Don. He came into the Toronto Regional and ripped off a 4.3 laser 40-yard dash. He's going to be one to watch on Sunday when we're live streaming the 40s.
And so we're through the defensive backs and the receivers. Felix Faubert-Lucier tops the charts with 26 reps. Very impressive for the receiver. And Brian Jones not far behind with 24. And in third place, Malcolm Brown, 13 reps. So you see a drop-off there, 26, 24. Again, very impressive for receivers to get into that territory.
It really is, especially when you consider that these guys, they can run too, Don. So big, strong, physical, slot-back types. And as I said, Felix Faubert-Lucier was one of my guys under the radar coming into the Combine. But because of his versatility, his strength, his athleticism there, he can play slot-back, can play H-back, can play a bit of fullback for you. He's right at the top of this leaderboard, showing he's got the strength to do some of those things.
Last year, Justin, we saw a very impressive display by Byron Archambault, the Hamilton Ticats linebacker, was drafted by the Ticats last year. 41 reps. Now, of course, the Combine record is 47. That was set by Michael Nill out of Wilfrid Laurier in 2011. There was some talk last year that perhaps Archambault could take a run at it. He did, but still fell 6 reps off. When you size up, as we get into the big men, we get into the linebackers in a moment here, and then we get into the big men, the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen. When you look at this year's crop, do we have anybody that we realistically think might be able to take a run at that?
I think there's a couple guys that can get in the 40 range here, Don. Philip Gagnon, the Laval offensive lineman, did 35 at the East-West Bowl in 2015. And Denzel Phillip, big-time defensive lineman, workout warrior from eastern New Mexico, might get there too.
All right. Well, we'll have a look for that. Again, this is one of the great events of the weekend. One of the events that people really look forward to, obviously, is the bench press and also the 40, and we will be live streaming that tomorrow. And as we wait for the linebackers to start their reps, I would like to welcome aboard G. Simon. As we mentioned just a few minutes ago, of course, the CFL's all-time leading receiver and the director of CIS Scouting for the BC Lions. How are you, G.
I'm doing well. How's it going?
It's very good. We're always happy to be here at Combine. It's a nice, really big burst of football midway through the offseason, isn't it? To get around football people, football players.
Yeah, this is kind of the kickoff of the new season. I mean, you go through free agency and things like that, but But this is a chance to get a look at the fresh faces that are going to be coming into the league.
Now, I'd like to know just how important the bench press is to scouts, to coaches, to player personnel people.
Well, the bench it's important in the fact that you want to see that guys do work out, they do train. You don't want to see inflated numbers because you can some guys are spending too much time in the weight room, but it's important to show for linebackers they can it shows their power that they can shed blockers and things like that, offensive linemen punching. And defensive linemen they can shed as well. So it's important to see how much power these guys have.
We're watching Marc-Antoine Laurent, the linebacker for the University of Ottawa out of Cantley, Quebec, lift right now. 16 reps for him. 19 tackles in 5 regular season games last year. He had 3 sacks and 5 tackles for a loss. Explosiveness is kind of measured in the upper body, I guess, through this. And the other drills that we see, they also measure a kind of explosiveness, don't they? The broad jump, the vertical, things like that.
Yeah, those it's all about, football is all about explosiveness and power and speed, and those drills show that how much force you can project from either a standing start or like you said, in your upper body, your chest area.
Terrell Davis, linebacker with the University of British Columbia Thunderbirds, a Vanier Cup champ, of course, in 2015, and one of Justin Dunk's under-the-radar prospects for this weekend, looking to impress as he gets lifting now. 56.5 tackles, 3rd in the CIS last year. Lists Solomon Elamimian as a player that has inspired him to become a football player. That's a pretty good inspiration for a linebacker, I'd say.
That is a good inspiration. This kid, he started out as a running back, went to Arizona State, and transferred back to UBC a couple years ago. Played a little bit of running back, fullback with his brother in the backfield, and they switched him to linebacker this past year. And I think he's going to be a good player. He can run around and make some plays.
Just waiting for Davis's number to go up on the board. We'll get that to you in just a moment. As we've seen Shane Gauthier from Laval stepping in now. Terrell Davis's number, by the way, 13 reps. This is Shane Gauthier, again from Laval, his hometown of Dolbeau-Matasini, Quebec. 43.5 tackles. That led the team last year. A CIS second-team All-Canadian. Vanier Cup champ in 2012 and 2013. Now, if we go way, way back, G. Roy, to your bench press days, what would we call your personal best?
Well,
and when I say what would we call it, I mean truthfully, what would we call it?
Well, the fortunate thing for me is when I came out, we didn't have to bench as receivers. But if I would have got under there back in 1997, I'd have probably did about 5 reps, and that's being generous.
Did you generally lift 225 as a workout or anything like that, or just to test yourself?
No, we did a little bit of testing, and I was very young when I went to university. Never lifted weights until I got to university, so it took me a while to develop that strength. And just coming out, I just wasn't a big weight room guy. I did lift. I did, I worked out a few days a week, but I wasn't a big weight lifter. I was more into working on my craft as in the skill department on the field.
Shane Gauthier, by the way, just finishing his lift, 23 reps for him, 23 again for Shane Gauthier, and now linebacker Curtis Newton, the University of Guelph, the Guelph Griffin, is under the bar now. His hometown, London, Ontario. 40 tackles last year, 3 sacks, 6 tackles for a loss. He had a forced fumble and 3 fumble recoveries as well. 2 interceptions and 3 pass breakups. So a lot of great numbers for him last season.
Yeah, this guy runs around. He makes a lot of plays. This is a good group of guys. These linebackers here. Some athletic guys that can really make some plays. You'll see them, maybe not starting in the coming years, but you'll see them on teams, and that's how they'll make their marks, coming into the league.
Curtis Newton trying to power through one more, can't do it. Miles Gurrell calls it out. 16 reps for Curtis Newton. 16 reps for the man from the University of Guelph. Doug Parrish now. Linebacker out of Western Oregon University, played with the Wolves in his hometown of Edmonton, Alberta. His father, Doug Parrish Sr., you might recall, a defensive back. He was drafted in the 7th round by the Jets in 1991, went on to play for the Edmonton Eskimos. Lists Willie Pless, Damon Allen, and his father, of course, as inspirations. Doug Parrish is done at 13 reps for Doug Parrish. Let's talk about the BC Lions for just a second here as we continue to watch some lifting here, G. Roy. And Wally's back out on the field, so why not, G. Roy?
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to bring Wally to come back and get back on the sidelines. I think I think we have a good plan going into this season. We're building a very good team, a very solid team. So this year should be fun.
Well, when I said why not, you knew what I was getting at, right? But you ignored that.
Yeah.
You look to be in pretty good shape. We're not going to ask you to lift, but maybe get out there tomorrow and run some pass patterns, show them how it's done.
No, my days are over. When I hung up the cleats, I hung them up for good. No, there won't be a comeback from 81 here.
Some of us thought you might be good for another $16,000, actually. Daniel Chamala is now under the bar. St. Francis Xavier University, born in Kinshasa, Congo. If that sounds familiar to some CFL fans through connections, that's because the Muambas were both born in Kinshasa, Enoch and Kochi. 49 tackles for him last year, Daniel Chamala. I didn't think he was going to get 22 there, G. Roy. Did you? He hung in there.
He grinded it out. Some of these guys, it shows that shows their toughness, that they're willing to fight till the end. That's a big, strong kid, and he's gonna. I think he's gonna do a good job on teams this year.
DJ Lalama came through the Edmonton Regional earlier this week. Played for the University of Manitoba Bisons, and his hometown is Winnipeg. 6 games last year, 36 tackles. Are you guys feeling, G. Roy, that the Lions have to take a look at certain positions here at the Combine and leading up to the draft? Or is it a case of, hey, again, as usual, best talent that's available in the slot?
Yeah, the thing is, you always want to take the best players. That's always going to help your team. But you do have focus. Positions you focus on. Obviously, you always want to look at the offensive line, just because. Especially as Canadians, if you have very good Canadians on your offensive line, you have a chance to win. Obviously, linebackers, you want those big, fast body types that can run down on teams and make tackles and play a variety of different spots on your special teams. Obviously D-line, offensive D-line. If you can control the line of scrimmage, you're always going to have a chance to win. So those are the positions that you look at, and then you want to fill some of the gaps. There's the receiver position is deep this year in this draft, so you'll be looking at those guys. Defensive backs, this is a deep draft for defensive backs. So. You'll see a lot of guys going off the board just because the talent level in that group is pretty deep.
I want to give Lalama's numbers, 22. He repped 22 under that bar of 225 pounds. We have a slight delay now as they're just readjusting the bar, getting things set, and we're going to bring out Alex Ogbombamiga in just a moment, and he'll get a chance to lift as well.
Say that 3 times.
You know what? I got used to saying Tristan Opala-Ugo. See how that rolls off? It took
There
a
you
while,
go.
too. But Alex Ogbong Bamiga. It'll start to roll. I love that name. Born in Lagos, Nigeria. 3 seasons with the University of Calgary, but most recently the Calgary Colts of the CJFL. And Justin Dunk and I were talking a little earlier before you joined us, G-Roy, and maybe you could reiterate this. Don't underestimate guys who play in the CJFL.
Yeah, some of these junior guys, for whatever situation they got to play junior, but there's a bunch of guys that can really play. This guy can really, he can get after it. He's big, he's strong, he's athletic. Another kid that's coming out of junior is the kid Van Nistelrooy, and he was at one of the regional combines in Edmonton, but he showed his athletic ability, his speed. And he can do a bunch of different things. He can play safety. He can come down and he can make tackles. And the word is he can do a little bit of punting, the rugby style punting. So I gave a little bit of a nugget there. But
well, that's why we brought you in. We'd like, if you have more rolling around in your brain right now, feel free.
Yeah, but some of these guys, are really talented in, whether it's academic situations or whether it's a financial situation or grades. Some guys are just, unfortunately they got to go to junior route, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You look at a guy like Andrew Harris. He went through the junior system, didn't go to university, but he's one of the top players in the league now and has been for the last few years. So you definitely can't underestimate the kids coming out of junior.
He's a great example, maybe the best example. Jermaine Gabriel of the Toronto Argonauts is another example who's blossomed into one of the better free safeties in the league. All right, we've got some adjustments made, and we're ready now for Alex Ogbong Bamiga. 4 regular season games last year, 20 tackles, 18 solo tackles, and a sack. 1 pass breakup, too. He lists Raleigh Lumbala and Charleston Hughes as players that he'd like to mimic, players that have inspired him. He is the last of the linebackers, I do believe. We'll see if we've missed anybody and they get reps here at the end.
Up.
17, the total for Alex Ogbong Bamiga. 14 is the total for him. G-Roy, it's always a pleasure to see you, sir, and it's great that you were able to jump in and give us some insight. We do appreciate it. Have a great weekend, and tell us who the Lions are drafting before you go. Yeah, that never works, by the way.
Probably a receiver. You know, if I have my way, we're always going to take a receiver first.
Well, do you have any quarterbacks that can sling the ball, though, G-Roy? That's the question. But just before I let you go, I mean, what a great situation to be in at quarterback. So much depth.
Yeah, you know, we really feel fortunate, you know, knowing that we have a young starter and Jonathan Jennings, who can really do a lot of things, and he's still in the process of growing and learning the game. So we're really excited about him, and then having, you know, former most outstanding player in Travis Dule as a backup coming into training camp is definitely something that we look forward to. You know, we feel comfortable about that position.
Thanks again, G-Roy. All the best.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
G-Roy Simon, 16,352 yards receiving, but you already knew that. He is now the director of CIS scouting for the British Columbia Lions, and we have moved into the running backs grouping now. And out of the Montreal Regional, getting an invitation because of a good performance earlier in the week is Devon Stewart, McGill University, and his hometown of Saint-Hubert, Quebec. Marketing student at McGill University, and says former CFL fullback Bruno Heppel is a guy that has really inspired him. Justin Dunk is rejoining us now, and it looks like Stewart means business here in the early going.
Tough spot to fill coming back for G-Roy Simon. Try to keep it up, keep the bar high.
He was good.
Dropping some knowledge.
I know. Yeah, you said the guy can kick rugby style. You don't get that all the time. This is what we want from you, all right? I just want one nugget like you. Not that you haven't been giving us great information, and I do mean that wholeheartedly. Follow Justin on Twitter. See his stuff at CFL.ca. See it wherever he puts it. You're pretty plugged in, and you've got a lot of great knowledge.
Trying as much as possible here, Don. Many nuggets as possible.
Meanwhile, we should say 27 is the total for Devon Stewart. 27 reps, and he takes over at the top of the leaderboard. Remember, we've been through defensive backs and wide receivers and linebackers, and now our running back takes the lead. 27 reps.
We're going to see these numbers start to go higher and higher here, Don, as we get through the groups towards the big fellas, the O-linemen and D-linemen.
Donald Tabor out of St. FX, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, his hometown, and again through the Montreal Regional earlier this week. 27 catches in 2015, 315 yards and a touchdown.
We should say, Don, if you're watching at home and you're counting the number of reps, but you see the number of reps that go up on the scoreboard is different, it's because some reps might get taken away if you're not locked all the way out. So they have Miles Gorell counting, and if he sees a rep that isn't deemed a full rep, that's one that's taken away.
In fact, they're just talking it over right now. That's a perfect example of it. The lift was over for about 10 seconds, and then Miles came up with the total because, if they don't see exactly what they want in the lift, then they will subtract, and Donald Tabor comes in with 20 reps. 20 reps for Donald Tabor.
So what you're looking for is elbows fully locked out. They don't want to see you just bounce it off your chest a couple inches and come back down. That isn't a full rep. Elbows need to be locked out for it to count.
I asked G-Roy about his lifting days, and he said, well, thankfully, I came through before receivers needed to bench press. He figured he could have done about 5 in his prime. And again, these tests are terrific, and they show a lot. And he talked about, explosiveness and strength. It's, these different drills test different things. Big for a lot of the players and a lot of the scouts and coaches on the weekend will be the one-on-ones, won't they? I mean, what is your football skill?
It certainly will be.
Trumps everything.
All these events can show how athletic you are, explosive and fast. But as Chris Jones said the other day when I was talking to him, a 40, if you look at it, is static. It's in a straight line. Even when you do the shuttle, those lines aren't moving. Guys on the football field are moving. So it's about playing actual football.
Wayne Moore from McMaster University is struggling now to get everything he can, and he gets 19 reps. That's 19 reps for the man from Etobicoke, Ontario. 108 rushes last year for 565 yards and 3 touchdowns, and 19 reps for Wayne Moore.
And there's a perfect example, Don. Wayne Moore got docked 4 reps because they deemed that his elbows were not locked out. He could have been at 23, but they don't count. He's at 19.
Right. Now we've got Mercer Timmis on the bench. 7th on the CFL Scouting Bureau December rankings. Dropped a couple of notches from the fall, down from 5. A CIS All-Canadian in 2013, 2014, 2015. University of Calgary.
You want a nugget here, Don? We'll give you one on Mercer Timmis. Grew up in Burlington, Ontario, idolizing Jesse Lumsden, the greatest running back from that area. Those two actually have a close relationship. Jesse has given him some advice on how to approach this combine, and he's following in those footsteps. So, pretty cool story. 8
reps for him. That is a very cool story and a good man to follow. It's good to follow his cleat marks. There's no doubt about that. 80 rushes for him last year for Mercer Timmis, 666 yards and 10 touchdowns. 4th in the CIS in rushing.
And those numbers could have been a lot higher, in all honesty. Calgary was blowing out a lot of teams, and Mercer Timmis didn't play full games really all season until the playoffs.
Going to give you another nugget, okay? He had a 5-touchdown game in 2012.
Just like who? His hero, Jesse Lumsden. They both had 5-touchdown games when they played in the CIS.
I believe Al Bundy did that at Polk High School. You have to be a Married with Children fan for that. There's a nugget that really no one needs. Moving on, Nathan O'Halloran. The University of Windsor. Played for the Lancers last year. His hometown is Amherstburg, Ontario.
Big, tough fullback prospect. Really well put together. Don, here we see the contrasting styles, right? We see O'Halloran a little slower, controlled with the bar, where we've seen some other guys really pumping it out.
He grinds out another one. Nope, didn't have another one there, but he did grind out a final one there. 18 is the total that he gets, and he looks over his shoulder and nods at Miles Gurrell. I guess he's pretty satisfied with that, and like I say, that 18th one was obviously the last one is always the toughest one, but boy, did he ever bear down on that.
He really did.
Now, I want to point out that you did the bench press last year at the Combine. You were challenged.
Well, yeah, and that's the only reason why, because there was some Hamilton Spectator reporter out there, might or might not be Shmoo Edwards, we'll say, that thought I couldn't even do one. I mean, yes, it's far removed from my playing days, and I wasn't really a CFL prospect to begin with, ever, because I played quarterback. But he said I couldn't do one, so I had to get on there and show him.
I think you did, 9?
It was a decent amount.
It was pretty good. No, it was pretty good. All right, we're into the big men now. Tariq Anderson out of Delaware State University, hometown right here in Toronto. We're into the defensive lineman, and the offensive lineman will follow as well.
Tariq Anderson, a guy that some scouts feel like is versatile enough to play inside or outside. With his big frame, he looks like he could put on some weight and maybe be a full-time interior defensive lineman.
Smart guy, too. He was named to the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference All-Academic Honoree list back in 2014. And smarts matter.
You certainly do. You have to be able to pick up the playbook.
17 reps is the total for Anderson.
That's a good total considering. Look how long his arms are, Don. Bar's got to go a long way. He gets 17. Big, strong defensive lineman.
I think people just generally assume, don't they, Justin, that defensive linemen and offensive linemen, because they're big guys, that they're going to get the most reps. But because of what you've mentioned, that's not necessarily so. They have these other challenges. And as we've seen here this morning, we've got some receivers and running backs who can lift pretty well now, too. I don't know if that's been changing over the years, if they've decided to really get into it. But it doesn't seem to me that, or it seems to me that not so long ago, it really didn't matter what a receiver would lift, what a running back would lift.
It didn't, Don, but now with more focus on the combine and preparing to be a professional athlete instead of just getting to that level and then getting your body in shape, these guys are now coming in more prepared and ready to go and ready to impress.
Western's Rupert Butcher under the bar now. An OUA first-team All-Star last year.
Stout defensive lineman on the inside for Western. Tough guy to run the football at, for sure.
.24 for Rupert Butcher. 24 reps called out by Miles Gurrell, again, who's been running the show here at the Combine for many, many years and a scout with the Ottawa Red Blacks. We're at the Gold Ring Centre in Toronto on the campus of the University of Toronto. This is a beautiful facility, by the way. It's fairly brand new. I've never been in here before myself, and it's gorgeous. We moved from the hotel where they used to do the weightlifting and the explosive drills, the vertical and the broad jump in the hotel in one of the parlors. It was quite civilized, Justin. I loved it. There was full coffee service in the back. So this is a little bit different, but Nice and bright, and I think the players are probably going to enjoy this atmosphere.
Yeah, a little more room here to be able to sort of move around, warm up, more room for the scouts. Just overall, a cool place to be. Really great setup here done by the CFL people. It's got to be Kashuk. He was at it.
Just like to remind everybody, since I mentioned we are here on the campus of the University of Toronto, you can come out tomorrow and see all of the drills, the 40. You can see the one-on-ones, the bubble at U of T, right next door to where we are right now. We just saw Quinn Horton, by the way, completing his lifts out of Simon Fraser University, I should say. 14, his number. 14 reps for Quinn Horton out of Simon Fraser University. Hometown of Winnipeg, and that's probably one of the reasons why he lists Doug Brown as a player that has inspired him. He'd also like to play like he says J.J. Watt. Well, wouldn't we all?
Yes, indeed.
I think we've got a little bit out of order there, Justin, so they're just trying to settle things down and get the next lifter ready.
Skipped, the defensive lineman from McMaster. He could be standing on his Toronto regional numbers, though. We'll have to wait and see here if he comes out.
And that's quite often the case, too, isn't it? Because the Toronto regional was 2 days ago. I mean, to lift that closely together in days that are that close together is not an easy thing to do. And
No,
quite often.
they would have went through all the football drills as well, so you want to allow your body time to rest and recover for Sunday for when you put the pads on again.
So a little bit of a break in the action, and I remember they did that for the first guy to be invited to the main camp through what was at that time Dwayne Ford's invitational camp. You'll recall Mike Filer. He came in and he did not lift a couple of days later. I don't believe. I'll double check on that. He was the kind of guy who would do everything again. Now starting center with the Hamilton Ticats. He was drafted by the Calgary Stampeders, and that's a good story. And Dwayne Ford should get a lot of credit, as should Mike Filer, because Dwayne Ford set up this invitational camp. Thought that maybe more players could come to the big show. And through that first camp that he put on, Mike Filer came out of it. And after that, it was decided regional combines are a good way to go. And then we see a bunch more players come through who wouldn't have gotten the invitation in the first place. And I think, was it last year, Justin, 4 or 5 who got invited through regionals actually got drafted.
Yeah, that's right, Don. Dwayne Ford should be given a lot of credit because it really showed that there was maybe some talent out there that was slipping through the cracks and that just weren't getting an opportunity to be seen by CFL scouts, and Filer is a perfect example of that.
All right, here comes Denzel Phillip out of Eastern New Mexico University, played for the Greyhounds, also Delta State University, the New Mexico Military Institute, and before that, York University.
If you want to see a big number, pay attention right now to Denzel Phillip. This guy is yoked up, as the kids say.
He's going through the hit a few, take a rest kind of procedure. "21 reps, but they docked him 2 there. 19 is the total for Denzel Phillip.
honestly was expecting more there, Don. I thought he would be in the high 20s, maybe even get into the 30s.
He has massive arms. His hometown of Mississauga, Ontario. Denzel Phillip leaves the floor. Boyd Richardson now comes out onto the floor through the Edmonton Regional this week. A Vanier Cup champ with the University of British Columbia Thunderbirds last fall. His hometown is Regina, Saskatchewan. Played for the Regina Thunder, by the way, in 2011 and 2012.
Making it look easy here early on, Don. Seems like he's getting into the 20s.
.27 reps now. .29, 29, and just shy of that magic 30 mark, but there's the mark of the day now, 29 reps.
They actually took 2 away, Don.
Oh, did they just dock 2? All right, down to 27.
We should say shout out to Jerome Messam. He's watching on the live stream. Thanks for the props, my man. Always good to have the big star Canadians of this league tuning in, supporting everything CFL. I bet you Jerome could hop on this bench and put up a couple. Hey, Don?
Well, and he's going to look to do some trucking for the Calgary Stampeders. An important re-signing for them after acquiring him late in the season last year, and with the retirement of John Cornish. They will give him the ball plenty. Bo Levi Mitchell will be happy to turn around and hand it to him and let him bash through the line and then go airborne over top. Offensive lineman now. Kadeem Adams is out on the bench now from Western and Halifax, Nova Scotia, his hometown. An OUA first-team All-Star in 2013. At 14, they docked him 2, and so Kadeem Adams comes in with 12 reps.
A lot of docked reps here today, Don. Some of the fellas won't be happy about that.
Jamal Campbell, York University Lions, and his hometown Toronto, Ontario, is next up. Can play left tackle or right tackle, and he actually started as a defensive end in university and flipped to the offensive line in 2014.
Campbell's a guy that teams view as a prospect with upside because of that switching positions, Don. He's a guy that might be a little bit of a project, but I mean that in a good way because he has upside if he can work on some of his technical issues.
Oh, it's all the rage now, too, in the CFL. Guys who can play defensive line or offensive line, right? At least in Calgary.
Flipping back and forth like Quinn Smith.
17 reps for Jamal Campbell, who says Ricky Foley, who also is a York alumnus, it's the guy who's inspired him to want to be a top-notch pro football player. Here comes number 52 out of Simon Fraser University, Michael Couture, hometown of Burnaby, BC. And I'll point out right now another one of Justin Dunk's under-the-radar prospects coming in here this weekend.
Yeah, an interesting player here, Don. He's really pushing to try to get himself in the top tier of offensive linemen in this draft class. There's sort of a tier of 5 that scouts look at as the top tier, the 3 Laval O-linemen, Dylan Guy, and Josiah St. John, the big tackle from Oklahoma. Some think Michael Couture should be in that group, and if he has a strong showing here this weekend, he very well could be.
Man, he's off and running. named the Simon Fraser Clan top lineman, by the way, in 2012 and an Eastern Conference All-Star that season. And Michael Couture with 24 reps.
No docked reps there. And we've seen over the years the Simon Fraser program turn out offensive linemen. Don, we saw Matthias Gossen go high early on, has a bright young career. Couture could be the same kind of athlete.
Out of the University of Laval, a hometown of Valenciennes, Lorette, Quebec, two-time Vanier Cup champion Philippe Gagnon is now ready to lift. 13th on the CFL Scouting Bureau December rankings, up from number 15 in September, and look at him go.
My favorite to win this event, he did 35 reps at the East-West Bowl in 2015. Let's see what he rips off here today, Don. It looks like warm-up weight. It looks like lightweight. Holy man, is that bar flying.
At 20 now. Still flying. 30.
Wow, he's still got some left in the tank here. He's getting in the 40s.
A lot of players gathered around the walking track here, urging him on. Got another one. Forty reps for Philippe Gagnon. What a performance.
Impressive showing there from the big fella. 40 doesn't happen too often in the CFL Combine, Don. That's impressive stuff.
And just one back of Byron Archambault last year at 41, and only 7 behind that record that we mentioned earlier. The Combine record is 47, but Philippe Gagnon comes through with 40. Sensational on the bench here this morning.
For reference for everyone out there, since they've been keeping records at the CFL Combine, only 4 other athletes have ever gotten to 40 at the Combine, so Gagnon becomes the 5th. The other 4, Mike Montoya did 40 in 2010, Eli Ngoyi did 40 in 2011, Byron Archambault, of course, did 41 a year ago in 2015, and Michael Nill holds the record with 47 set back in 2011.
Roman Grossman now, and an under-the-radar prospect. I think you had, 5 total? 5 or 6 that you had as under-the-radar prospects? Born in Tel Aviv, Israel, and a member of the Concordia University Stingers in 2015.
Roman's another one of those offensive linemen trying to push himself in that top tier. A big guy who moves really well, and clearly you can see he's strong by the way he's moving that bar.
The great Brian Chu, his motivation to become a football player and a great offensive lineman. Of course, the O-line coach for the Ottawa Red Blacks now, Brian Chu.
And what they say about Grossman, he's got meat hooks for hands in a good way. When he gets his hands on you as an offensive lineman, it's pretty much over because he's so strong in that regard.
Just a little upset that he couldn't get that last one out. But I didn't hear any. They didn't dock him there, did they? I heard 27 called out, and I don't think
counted. You like to see the competition from these guys. I like to see them really trying to get that last rep, as many as possible. Some of them not happy when they can't get it. Just the competitors here.
Another under-the-radar prospect for Justin Dunk is Zach Inzant. Played for Mac, McMaster University Marauder, and named an OUA first-team All-Star in 2015. He's another one who started on the defensive line at first and shifted to the offensive line back during the 2013 season due to a number of injuries on the offensive line.
He's only been playing offensive line for not very long, is an all-star in pretty much his first season there, Don, and that's why his arrow is pointing up in terms of his prospects in the CFL. He's a guy that's athletic, has a good-looking body for an offensive lineman, and is strong too. So he just needs to really refine some of the aspects of the position. But CFL scouts really like this guy.
Counts 21, and no subtraction. So 21 for Zach Inzant. Winnipeg, Manitoba's Sean Jamieson, a Western Mustang through his university career and a CIS All-Canadian in 2014 and 2015.
The big knock on Jamieson has been his strength. You're an offensive lineman. You need that strength in your punch. He only did 6 reps on the bench for the 2015 East-West Bowl. Don, not a good total. Scouts are looking to see if he's been in the gym and been working on this aspect of his game.
You'll never guess what football player made him want to become one. He's an offensive lineman.
No idea.
Milt Stiegel. He says Milt Stiegel is his inspiration. Not that that's a bad inspiration, but I mean, he's an offensive lineman. He played defensive line. Well, I expect him to go off tackle eligible many times during his CFL career. And
he's going with one of the sexy positions, I guess, right?
13 reps for Sean Jamieson out of Western University.
It's pretty solid for an offensive lineman. You'd like to see them be at least in the high teens or maybe in the 20s, but considering that Jamieson only did 6 at the East-West Bowl, doubles up +1, certainly a sign that he's been working on that area of his game.
Now 14th on the CFL Scouting Bureau's December rankings, 19th in the fall, so he is rising. Heading up the charts is Jason Lauzon-Sagan, University of Laval. Pointe Claire, Quebec is his home time, a 2-time Vanier Cup champion in 2012 and 2013, and a CIS first-team All-Canadian in 2015.
Big-time prospect under the bar here. There's 3 Laval O-linemen. That place is like a factory for turning out offensive linemen, and it's proven by 3 of them being ranked in the Scouting Bureau and viewed as top CFL prospects who can come in and help your team pretty soon.
So close on that last one, so close to locking them, but he gets an impressive 27. It's a popular number here this morning.
It is. He does 2 reps better than what he did at the 2015 East-West Bowls. Really good total there for Lauzon-Sagan. Don, I was talking about the Laval offensive linemen and how that program has been able to turn them out. A lot of the credit goes to their offensive line coach, Carl Brennan. I was talking to Charles Valancourt about him. He says he really makes it about family, that the offensive line is always together, but he's such a great coach, and he won't let you get away with little technical issues that he spots. He sees them and corrects them right away so it doesn't become an issue. He's really one of the main guys to credit with why Laval has turned out all of these high-end offensive linemen, and we see another one step under the bar. Of course, head coach Glenn Constantine there at Laval has done a great job in recruiting these guys and getting them into a pro-style program as well.
Big year for offensive linemen from Laval, and as you mentioned, Charles Vaillancourt is now ready to bench press, and he has those 2 Vanier Cup championships, of course, and a CIS first-team All-Canadian 3 seasons in a row, 2013, 14, and again in 2015, and he was a second-teamer in 2012. And another one who says Brian Chu is the kind of lineman he'd like to be.
And it makes sense when you consider these guys were born in Quebec. They would have grown up watching those great Owls teams that won multiple Grey Cups, Don.
I didn't hear the call on that. Justin, did you? Was it
24 reps.
24 reps? 24 reps for Charles Vaillancourt, and that will do it for the bench press at the 2016 CFL Combine presented by Adidas. Once again, the number, a very impressive top number from Philippe Gagnon from the University of Laval. He checked in with 40 just a few minutes ago.
He did, and there was some talk leading into the Combine that even though Charles Vaillancourt was ranked above Philippe Gagnon in the Scouting Bureau, that there were some scouts around the league that were really starting, as they watched the film on Gagnon, to think that he might be the best Laval offensive line prospect. Now, that's no shot at Vaillancourt because he's still very good as well, but he really puts himself on the map here for CFL fans with this 40 number on the bench.
A reminder that this is just the first of 2 live stream events that we have, and we thank you for joining us this morning. Tomorrow we will be live streaming the 40 once again, and if you'll recall, Jim Barker joined us last year and gave us some fascinating insight as that event was on. I'm happy to say that he's going to be joining us again tomorrow, as will Dwayne Ford. We mentioned him during this live stream. We'll talk to him about spotting prospects, about this whole process. He'll join us during the 40 as well, so a couple of special guests, and Justin and I will be along as well. That's tomorrow from the Bubble at U of T. If you're in Toronto, Bloor Street and near Avenue Road, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you'll see the big bubble as you're heading along Bloor Street. You're welcome to come by. You'll see the 40, you'll see the cone drills, you'll see the one-on-ones. People love to watch those. That's tomorrow, but our live stream for today is done. For Justin Dunk, I'm Don Landry. So long for now from the Gold Ring Center on the campus of University of Toronto.